Hi everyone, Paul Morbid here, Morbid Team Entertainment and Bolex Repair Philippines. Going to be looking at our vintage movie cameras, single 8, super 8, 8mm, 16mm. It doesn't make a difference which one we have of our preference. How long to leave the batteries inside of the exposure meter and of those that operate the camera. Our cameras, as you can see in this photo, can come from any part of the world. They can come out of the garbage. They can come usually second hand off of a website, whatever it may be. The situation is they need to go straight to a service technician for a CLA, clean, lubed, and adjustment before filming. Because as you're going to see here in this photo and more in the video that I have, they're just full of rust, corrosion that have wreaked havoc on these cameras through the generations. It's us that have picked a new generation of cameras up and ready to use them. Let's go. Next, we have a motor from a Canon 514 XLS. Definitely one of the worst camera models out there due to the gears deteriorating from the old lubricant that was used to deteriorate and soften those gears. But at any rate, this camera has been left in some closet somewhere or some attic and is or put outside somewhere. At any rate, some corrosion and green has been started around the motor, as you can see right there. You never know where these cameras come from, which is again why you want to send them to a service technician when you get them to have all this removed. Okay, definitely so. You never know what you're getting or what you're getting into, and these cameras are vintage. They're very old, so make sure you have your cameras checked out. Here we have one of the Fujica single 8 models. Someone's left their batteries in there for a long time and may have left it outside. At any rate, you can see the large amount of corrosion that started. This is generally typical. People back in the day got tired of the camera, went on to something new, maybe went on to Super 8, left their batteries in there, put the camera probably outside, something like that, and the damage had already started. It's really, really unfortunate, and probably users never thought that years later there would be a new group of individuals such as us who would want the camera to use and it would be repopularized again. At any rate, you can see the damage that's already started. This can be cleaned up, but at any rate right here, what's going to happen, once you finish using your camera, remove the batteries. Always. Here we have another Fujica single 8 camera. It doesn't make a difference what type of movie camera vintage it is. This is an extreme case. As you can see, the prongs right there for the battery compartment have already started breaking off. The fact of the matter is, once you finish using your camera, remove the batteries. That for the exposure meter and that for that controls the camera itself and the handle there or any other part of the camera. Remove the batteries. And if you use the cheaper batteries, they're going to destroy quicker. Using a high grade battery such as Duracell, something like that, is a much more secure battery to use, but just don't leave them inside the camera at all. Take them out. Remember, this is a vintage camera. They're very old. Here you can see another angle and example of the same camera, Fujica single 8. It just broke it right off. This can be repaired, yes, but it's, a real difficult situation. It really, really is. And I can't stress it enough, once you've finished using the camera, remove those batteries. It is a bit of an aggravation, I must say, taking the batteries in and out, but these cameras are really old, and you have to respect that. So each time, just remove the batteries. Buy Duracell, Energizers, batteries like that, and stay away from those cheap and expensive batteries, because those are really going to damage what's going on there. And when the camera has a battery in it, there's still a charge going on, so remove them. Now this is an example of my battery compartment for my Fujica ZC1000. Love this camera, but with a situation like this, you do have a situation where you can remove these prongs if need be to remove rust and repair them. Alright, the situation is if you're in a hot and humid climate, the rust just keeps popping up. I actually have a tool, a diamond file that I carry around in my case, in my professional case, that I have to remove corrosion from time to time from in the battery compartment. It just happens if you're in a hot and humid climate. You always have to keep checking on that all the time. This is even when I remove the batteries. So do keep that in mind. And if you think your Bolex 16 or 8mm cameras are safe, well, they're not. They're made out of about 4 different types of metals, and they can be some of the worst. This is one of the Bolex cameras that I got in Southeast Asia. Someone stored it outside somewhere, and the governor right here, the rust and corrosion just started all over it, okay, and is eaten straight through it and is totally irreparable. So even if you take it apart, it makes no difference whatsoever. The only thing to do in a situation like this is replace the entire governor. So, and in addition, about every 4 to 6 months with a Bolex in a hot and humid climate, you got to go in there, take some of it apart, and lubricate it, clean it, a new CLA. Same thing with a Bolex H16. See all the rust and corrosion? You just can't really repair something like this at all. It's a total loss. So you have to get a professional case. You've got to have a cool and dark climate in your house to store the camera. You don't need the sunlight beaming directly on it from any type of window or anything like that. And you got to keep it clean and lubricated all the time. You really do. You got to know how to go in there and do some type of repairs, or send it off to a technician to do the extensive stuff, especially every 6 months. It's a definite must. The Bolex cameras, again, are made out of all those different types of metals, and they have to be kept up to maintenance. That governor down there definitely has to be kept up to maintenance right there. Here I've got a Bolex H16 Reflex, and what happened to this one was it was purchased in Southeast Asia is where I got it, and the camera was stored somewhere very wet, and it was stored upside down, and there's 4 screws at the top of the viewfinder right there. For those who do not know, 4 micro mini screws, and they were rusted so badly that it looked as if they were welded there. Just the only way to get them off was to drill them out, and that's what I had to do. I've actually got a video on my channel, Paul Morbid, for those of you who do not know. So once I drilled the screws out of there, the 4 screws go inside of there, and the whole entire chamber inside is filled with rust. Even the glass elements are rusted as well. You can see that in the video. Here we have a Bolex H16 transport prism, what I call a just the turret prism is what I call it. Alright, so this came from the same Reflex H16 Bolex camera. So it was turned upside down. The reflective coating was removed due to the water damage, and that's what causes it right there. Definite water and humidity, extreme heat damage right there. So this camera was, I believe, stored upside down. That is my firm belief, and it was stored upside down, and that's why all the rust, fungus, corrosion is on that upper top of the camera, taking a long time really to get into it. Here is a Bolex Super 8 camera. As you can see, it's been stored improperly somewhere. Rust on the undercover, the old leatherette has started in, and corrosion will have been started inside the camera already itself. It's just really a severe situation. Someone could have stored it even outside somewhere, and where a lot of heat and humidity have gotten to it as well. Once this rust and corrosion starts in, there's no stopping it. It just spreads and continues to spread on throughout the camera, wreaking damage to all the components, the glass, and everything. And it gets in between the wires and the wire coatings. We'll look more at that. Okay, so here we have an issue of the same Bolex Super 8 camera. Alright, so it's the corrosion up inside the shutter blade. You can see it right there. It's spread all the way around, and it's just deep up inside there. It's traveling up inside the lens compartment as well, up around the motor. Someone has stored this camera outside, and a lot of heat and humidity, the elements of the weather and the rain and stuff like that. It's just a complete situation, a complete problem, and it's not even worth the repair. What you're going to get with something like this is an expensive repair. For a camera you're going to find somewhere at the thrift store for $20, it's probably going to cost you anywhere from $250 to $500 to repair it. And the corrosion is going to get in between the wiring and the wire coating, as we can see right here. It's just a complete issue and not worth it. Store your camera properly. So, why is storing your camera properly a good thing to do? Here's that same Bolex Super 8, and I've taken it apart down there where the shutter is from the lens, and you can see the fungus. There you are. That's all fungus right there. On all the components, on the glass. This is a complete loss. It's just, look at there. Up top you'll see the shutter. That's one thing, but now we have the components down there. And again, here all the wiring would have to be changed, because as I pointed out before, that corrosion travels up in between the wiring and the wire coating, and that causes all different types of electronic issues beyond belief. It's just not worth it. Store your camera properly again. So if you don't know what happens and what it looks like with the batteries corrode in your movie camera, here they are. You can have the front side and the back side that corrode right there. If it looks bad inside the camera, it's going to look bad for the batteries. These are also cheap batteries, buy quality batteries. Here's an Elmo single 8, and the camera itself is in great condition. The only problem was the battery compartment right there. Someone left the batteries in too long, and it completely destroyed the prongs down there. Could be up for repair, that type of a thing. But, you know, that takes time. And when you got a lot of things other on your plate, it does take time. Remove those batteries. Also, when you store your camera in heat and humidity, the lens can get fungus. This one is irreparable. It's just inside the lens. And if you think that heat and humidity are going to cause just issues inside the camera, well, this is incorrect. Also, the plastics. You want to keep your single 8, Super 8, whatever type of vintage movie camera you have, away from the sun and heat and humidity, because the plastics will suffer from it as well. Here you can see where some of the plastics have cracked on the outer body of this camera. And what's the moral of the story here? Remove the batteries, all of them. Exposure and camera batteries after you use the camera is just safe to do. And get yourself some professional cases to protect your cameras from the rain and the elements outside and commuting. And for those just getting started out in low-budget filmmaking and film students, if you wonder what the button cell, mercury cell, and the exposure meter looks like in a vintage movie camera, here it is. They were discontinued because they were a hazard and they had to be replaced with an equivalent. So again, everyone, the moral of this story is remove the batteries from your camera frequently. It's not to say that if you're filming on the fly, such as some type of documentary or something like that, that you need to keep your batteries in frequently. That's just fine. Even I do that, and we all do. But you don't want to keep them in for a long period of time. Okay? Weeks, months, years. As you've seen from the video, that will cause extreme damage. It definitely will. And do use higher grade batteries. It's just wise to do. And for those who are not using batteries, make sure that you do, in fact, keep your camera stored, whichever way it is. If it's either 16mm, that you don't leave them in a hot and humid place, such as like a Bolex, to cause any type of extreme heat and humidity damage. These Bolex cameras are made of like 4 different types of metal, and it's going to corrode and rust them instantly. Every 6 months you need to get them serviced, and believe me, it's just going to cause a lot of problems. But as you've seen from the video, take those batteries out. Use quality batteries as well. Okay? Do contact me at the social media outlets provided on the screen, and remember, as always, do subscribe. Until next time, see ya!